Hello, I'm Alex. Welcome to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the controversy of Oceangate. I'm sure you've seen it all over the media, and there's a certain narrative that's being put forth. But there are other things that aren't really being focused on, and I think that deserve a lot more attention. So what I'll do is I'll give you some of the basics of what you know through the media, and then go from there. So let's get started. Stockton Rush III was born in 1962 in San Francisco. He's a descendant of Benjamin Rush and Richard Stockton. They were two signers of the Declaration of Independence. He's part of a very wealthy family. His father was chairman of the Peregrine Oil and Gas Company, and he was also involved in real estate ventures in that area. His grandfather was a chairman as well of President Lines. This is a shipping company. So if you have two generations right there, they're both chairmans, they're racking up a lot of generational wealth here. And another part of his family, the Davies side, they are oil tycoons. They brought in more generational wealth into that, so you can just imagine Stockton Rush is a very wealthy guy. Stockton Rush was a golden child growing up. Even at the age of 19, he was able to pilot a jet engine airplane. On top of that, very early he was able to get his engineering degree in aerospace. He had very high hopes to become an astronaut, and he actually tried to get into NASA, but his qualification exam didn't really pan out. He wasn't really what they were looking for, unfortunately. And with those hopes dashed, he thought, okay, maybe I can do underwater exploration. He was quoted saying that that is like a new frontier. That's like the Captain Kirk of the ocean. But now we'll go way into the future to 2009, where he is a founding member of Oceangate, a research and tourism company. And of course, we'll know this is his vehicle for his underwater exploration. He didn't really seem to have any experience in submarines. He didn't do it in the military or work with a government agency. He did work for a sonar company in Seattle and a remote controlled device company as well, but nothing that would make him very well versed in underwater activities. After some research, developing, and building up the company, by 2017, Oceangate announced that it'll provide tourism services to the Titanic. You know, that Titanic at the bottom of the ocean, about 15,000 feet deep from the surface. So this area is highly pressured. So if you go down that deep, you're going to have all that water pushing down on you. So there's a lot of reasons why tourism hasn't been offered in this particular area. By 2018, there were employees of Oceangate that had concerns for safety because Stockton Rush, he liked to cut corners. He was all about taking risks. He didn't really like following regulations and guidelines because to him those were hampering his innovation. Despite all the alarms being raised about safety concerns with regard to Oceangate's activities, they managed to get what they call the Titan down to the Titanic 13 times in the years 2021 and 2022.
And I've broken some rules to make this. I think I've broken them with logic and good engineering behind me. The carbon fiber and titanium, there's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did. I'd like to be remembered as an innovator. I think it was General MacArthur said, you're remembered for the rules you break.
So now with all this publicity of the Titan being a success, there are people that want to jump on board, including billionaires. And by June 18th, 2023, Stockton Rush managed to get some high-profile billionaires onto his vessel. And on this vessel to the Titanic, they made a 5-person expedition, including Rush Stockton himself, British billionaire Hamish, French explorer Paul-Henri Nargeolet, and Pakistani-British businessman Shahzada Dawood and his 19-year-old son. And after making their descent into the water, it took an hour and 45 minutes for communications to be lost. So between June 19th to June 22nd, there was all of this commotion saying, okay, we need to find these people. We need to make an effort to find them and to rescue them. In many people's minds and in the media and how it was portrayed, it seemed like they were still down there. They were all in one piece and they were just running out of oxygen. So there was a multi-million-dollar search effort put into finding these people. And by June 23rd, the U.S. Coast Guard, they found debris of the Titan, and they made a definitive announcement that all those that were aboard the Titan are deceased. So that's a synopsis of generally what happened. I know there are more details about it, but this leads me to my main point. These deaths are very sad, and this is newsworthy. It should be covered. However, there are other things going on in the world that include many more people besides 5 people dying in a submarine. On June 14th, just a few days before this incident happened with Oceangate, more than 700 people died when their boat had sunk in the ocean. Those that were on this sunken ship, they were coming from poverty-stricken and war-torn areas. Many of these migrants were coming from Pakistan, Libya, Egypt, and Syria. Although the Coast Guard of Greece did save those that were on the ship, they were accused of actually capsizing the boat by tying the wrong way onto the boat and pulling it. So this leads me to why I'm mentioning this. There were multiple Coast Guards from different countries that went to save those on the Titan, even though it was made apparent that they had died an hour and 45 minutes after they descended into the water. And in contrast, they didn't send multiple Coast Guards to save those that had capsized on that boat. As opposed to the Titan, I mean, it was apparent that in an hour and 45 minutes, there was no point in spending all of that money. And it makes you wonder, why was all the media attention on the Titan and not on the capsized boat, where way more people died? I have a few theories. One is, it's the Titanic. The Titanic, it's in the media, people have seen the movie, the Celine Dion. It is ingrained in our mind. It is about how news works. News wants to sell advertising space. So things like YouTube or the news, the New York Times, all these different people, they want eye-catching material. And the Titan, that was their revenue. They were thinking, this capsized boat, this isn't news. This isn't the kind of news that's going to make us as much money as we would like. And of course, I don't want to be a hypocrite here. Obviously, I had an eye-catching thumbnail or a title to get you to watch this video. However, it does bring up an important conversation on how the international community sees news. I am hoping that other influencers on social media and in news outlets, that they bring this into the forefront on how we value human life. To me, human life does matter when it's a large group of people. Of course, any death is tragic, even if it's one. But, however, if you have a large swath of people that are perishing, that should be getting more news attention as opposed to those that are maybe more high profile or more wealthy. I do understand that if there's a certain person that you have an affinity towards, like a celebrity, if something happens to them, you're going to be following that. You're going to be all over it. But I think it comes down to tribalism. People are focused on their own tribe, so I'm sure in Libya and Pakistan, they're very focused on that news because those are people that are part of their country, as opposed to people in other countries, maybe they don't feel that relatability and they're not as focused on that side of the news, despite the disparity in numbers. This really comes down to empathy. Do people really have that much empathy? Is the media really just catering to the lowest common denominator of those that don't really have much of it? I do understand that people need to care about their country and their inhabitants first before they care about anybody else. But at the same time, I think it is important to be aware of what's going on around the world, whether or not you have that empathy or not. I'm not telling people to force it upon themselves because I don't think that's really the right way to go about it either. That's pretty much it for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe below, and I do appreciate you taking this time, and be aware that there will be more videos to come. And until then, I will see you on the next video.